Welcome students. Today we will study the chapter of stationary waves. In the chapter of wave motion, we studied that the waves are basically classified into two types: progressive waves, which always travel in one direction, and stationary waves, which do not travel at all. So, stationary waves are the waves which do not progress or do not move. Stationary waves are defined as the resultant waves formed due to superposition of two exactly identical progressive waves having same amplitude, wavelength, and speed, traveling in the same medium along the same path but in exactly opposite directions are called stationary waves. Thus, the formation of stationary waves is possible only when the two interfering waves have equal amplitude, if they are identical in type, if they have equal wavelength and frequency, if they travel in the same medium along the same path, that is along the same line, and they are traveling in the opposite directions. The characteristics of stationary waves are as follows. The stationary waves are formed due to superposition of two exactly identical waves traveling through the same medium along the same path but in opposite directions. Number 2, when stationary waves are set up in a medium, the particles at some point are permanently at rest, that is, their amplitude is zero. Such points are called nodes. The distance between two successive nodes is lambda by 2. When stationary waves are set up in a medium, the particles at some point vibrate with maximum amplitude. Such points are called antinodes. Distance between two successive antinodes is lambda by 2. Nodes and antinodes are alternately situated. The distance between any node and successive antinode is lambda by 4. In stationary waves, loops are formed between two successive nodes. All the particles in one loop are in the same phase, while the particles in the successive loop are out of phase by pi radian. Stationary waves are periodic in time and periodic in space, so they are doubly periodic in nature. Stationary waves do not transfer energy through the medium. In stationary waves, all the particles except those at node vibrate with same period as that of the interfering waves. The amplitude of vibration is different for different particles, and that increases from node to antinode. A loop is formed between two successive nodes because of two reasons. Firstly, the amplitude of vibration of the particles increases from node to antinode and decreases from antinode to node. Secondly, all the particles reach their maximum displacement at a time. In case of stationary waves formed due to interference of longitudinal waves, displacement of the particle at node is zero, but the pressure at the node changes between maximum to minimum. At antinodes, the displacement is maximum, but the pressure remains constant. Hence, displacement nodes are called pressure antinodes and displacement antinodes are called pressure nodes. Equation of the stationary waves can be obtained by considering the equations of two interfering waves as follows. Consider two identical progressive simple harmonic waves traveling through the same medium along the same path but in the opposite directions. The displacements y1 and y2 produced by them in a particle at distance x from the origin at time t are y1 is equal to a sin 2 pi t by t plus x upon lambda, and y2 is equal to a sin 2 pi t by t minus x upon lambda. The waves are traveling in opposite directions, hence the phase difference x upon lambda is positive in one wave and negative in the other. The resultant can be obtained by adding these displacements vectorally, and then we get the equation of the wave as y is equal to 2a sin 2 pi t by t into cos of 2 pi x upon lambda. The node is the condition where the amplitude of the particle is 0. In the equation of stationary wave, amplitude of the wave is 2a cos of 2 pi x upon lambda. Equating it with 0, we get that the distance between the two successive nodes is lambda by 2. Similarly, at antinodes, this amplitude 2a cos of 2 pi x upon lambda is maximum, that is plus or minus 2a. Considering this condition, distance between the two antinodes is also found to be lambda by 2. Hence, distance between successive nodes and antinodes is lambda by 2, or the nodes and antinodes are equidistant. Also, distance between the consecutive nodes and antinodes is lambda by 4. When we study the stationary waves, it is very important to know the two terms harmonics and overtones. The fundamental frequency along with its integral multiples are called harmonics. The fundamental frequency itself is the first harmonic. In some vibrations, certain harmonics are absent. For example, in vibrations of the air column enclosed in a hollow pipe closed at one end, all even harmonics are absent. Vibrations of frequencies higher than the fundamental frequencies, which are actually present, are called overtones. The fundamental frequency is not the first overtone, but the first higher multiple of fundamental frequency is called first overtone. In case of vibrations in air column enclosed in a hollow pipe closed at one end, the third harmonic is the first overtone and the fifth harmonic is the second overtone, and so on. As the term overtone is used for the higher harmonics which are actually present, the term absent overtone is meaningless. Vibrations in a body can be of two types. One are called free oscillations or free vibrations, and the other are called forced vibrations. When a body capable of vibrating is displaced from its mean position and released, the restoring force may set the body into oscillations. Thus, the body starts oscillating about its mean position on its own. Such vibrations are called free vibrations or free oscillations. The frequency of vibrations of the body is called natural frequency of vibrations of the material of the body, and it is determined by the dimensions of the body and the elastic properties of the medium. Amplitude of free oscillations decreases because of loss of energy in every oscillation. Hence, The oscillations are called damped oscillations. To prevent the oscillations from getting damped, an external periodic force may be applied. But the body doesn't oscillate with its natural frequency now, but its frequency of vibration changes according to the frequency of the external force. Thus, the body is forced to oscillate with a new frequency. Hence, the oscillations are called forced oscillations. Amplitude of forced vibrations is inversely proportional to the difference between the natural frequency of vibrations of the body and the frequency of the external force, which is called forcing frequency or driving frequency. Thus, as the driving frequency approaches the natural frequency, the amplitude of vibration goes on increasing. Finally, when the driving frequency matches exactly with the natural frequency, we get maximum amplitude of vibration. This effect is called resonance. Thus, resonance is defined as getting the maximum amplitude of forced vibrations due to synchronization or matching between the natural frequency and driving frequency is called resonance. If the amplitude of vibration is plotted against driving frequency, initially when the difference between the natural and driving frequency is more, the amplitude of forced vibration is less. As the driving frequency increases, the difference between the frequencies decreases and the amplitude of vibration increases. Finally, when the difference becomes zero or the driving frequency becomes same as that of the natural frequency of the body, resonance occurs and we get maximum amplitude of forced vibrations. If the driving frequency is increased further, the amplitude of forced vibration decreases again. This can be shown in a graph which is known as resonance curve. Vibrations in a stretched string. When a stretched metal string of uniform dimensions and density under a constant tension is plucked at some point in a direction perpendicular to its length, the point starts oscillating simple harmonically. These vibrations travel along the length of the wire in both directions in form of transverse waves. Velocity v of these waves can be calculated by an empirical formula. V is equal to under root T upon M, where T is the tension in the string and M is the linear density, that is mass per unit length of the wire. When these transverse waves reach the fixed ends of the string, they get reflected with a phase change of pi radian. These reflected waves superimpose on the incident waves and produce stationary waves along the string with the nodes at the fixed ends. The string can vibrate in different ways with different frequencies. The only restriction on the vibrations is that node must be formed at the two ends of the string. The different ways in which the string can vibrate are called ways or the modes of vibrating string. If the string is stretched between two rigid supports and plucked at its center, an antinode is formed at the center and the string vibrates in a manner as shown in the figure. This is the simplest way in which the string can vibrate, and thus it is called fundamental mode of vibrations of the string. With nodes at the two ends and an antinode at the center, the string has only one loop along its length. If lambda is the wavelength and L is the length of the string, The length of the loop is lambda by 2, that is equal to L. Therefore, lambda is equal to 2L. If n is the frequency of vibrations of the string, then n can be written as V upon lambda, that is 1 upon lambda under root T by M. Hence, n is given as 1 upon 2L under root T by M. This is the lowest frequency with which the string can vibrate and thus called fundamental frequency of vibration or the first harmonic. Similarly, it can be proved that in the second mode, the frequency is double the fundamental frequency, and in the third mode, it is 3 times the fundamental frequency. In second mode, 2 loops are formed, and in the third mode, 3 loops are formed. From the formula for fundamental frequency, 3 laws of vibrating string can be written. For a given string at a fixed tension, the fundamental frequency of vibrations is inversely proportional to the vibrating length of the string. That is, n is proportional to 1 upon L, provided T and M are constant, or NL is equal to constant, or N1 L1 is equal to N2 L2. The second law is stated like this. For a given string of fixed vibrating length, the fundamental frequency of vibrations is directly proportional to square root of tension in the string. That is, n proportional to under root T, provided L and M are constant, or n upon root T is constant. The third law, for a string of fixed vibrating length under a constant tension, the fundamental frequency of vibrations is inversely proportional to square root of linear density of the string. That is, n is proportional to 1 upon under root M, provided L and T are constant, or n root M is equal to constant. The law can be extended further by substituting small m as mass upon length. Mass can be substituted as volume into density, so it will be volume into density upon length. If rho is the density of the material of the string and L is its length and R is its radius, then mass can be substituted as pi r square rho, and substituting this value in the formula for fundamental frequency, we get the formula as n is equal to 1 upon LD under root T upon pi rho. Thus, 2 more laws can be written as: for a given string of fixed vibrating length under a constant tension, the fundamental frequency of vibrations is inversely proportional to the radius of the string, that is, n proportional to 1 upon r, provided L, T and rho are constant, or nr is equal to constant. For a string of given radius of a fixed vibrating length under a constant tension, the fundamental frequency of vibrations is inversely proportional to the square root of density of the material of the string, that is, n proportional to 1 upon root rho, provided L, T, R are constant, or n proportional to root rho, or n root rho is equal to constant. Sonometer consists of a rectangular hollow wooden box with a pulley on one side. A metal wire of uniform cross-sectional area is stretched on the box with one end fixed to the box and the other end passing over the pulley. The other end is holding hanger H. The wire is supported by 2 knife edges K1 and K2. When the wire is plugged, the nodes are set up at these edges. So the distance between the edges is the vibrating length of the string. Tension in the string is adjusted by adjusting the number of weights to the hanger. The sonometer is used for two purposes. It is used to calculate the unknown frequency of the tuning fork, or it is used to verify the laws of vibrating string. In both the cases, resonance is achieved between the forcing frequency or the tuning fork and the natural frequency of vibrations of the wire of the sonometer. The resonance can be achieved by one of the following ways. The best method is called musical ear method. Plug the string and strike the fork at a time. Hear both the sounds. Adjust the vibrating length of the string by adjusting the position of one of the knife edges till beats are heard. Carefully adjust the length to reduce the beats to 0. In this situation, the frequency of the fork and that of the vibrations of the string become the same. This is called resonance. But this method requires some musical knowledge. For ordinary students, paper rider method is used. Keep one or two very small, lightweight paper pieces called paper riders in the middle of the string. Keep the distance between the two edges very small. Strike the given fork on a thick rubber pad and touch its stem to the box near the wire. Increase the distance between the edges smoothly. As we approach the resonance, the wire and hence the paper rider start vibrating with greater amplitude. Finally, when resonance occurs, the string vibrates with maximum amplitude and the riders are thrown off. In this situation, the frequency of vibration of the string becomes equal to that of the frequency of the fork. This is how the vibrations in the tuning fork and vibrations of the sonometer wire can be synchronized. Unknown frequency of tuning fork can be calculated with Melday's experiment also. As shown in the figure, one end of a thin, lightweight, inextensible, tough thread is attached to one of the prongs of the tuning fork. The other end of the thread passes over the pulley and supports a lightweight pan. The tension in the thread is adjusted by masses in the pan. When the tuning fork is set into vibrations, either by hitting one of the prongs with a rubber hammer called mallet or by a bow, the tuning fork starts vibrating as well as the thread also starts vibrating. These vibrations in the thread travel along its length in form of transverse waves. At the pulley, these waves are reflected and stationary waves are set up along the thread. Vibrating length of the thread is adjusted by adjusting the position of the pulley so as to get 3 or 4 complete, distinct and well-defined loops. Vibrating length L, number of loops P and tension T is measured. Now, length of one loop is the distance between two successive nodes, that is lambda by 2. Therefore, length of P loops is P lambda by 2. But length of P loops is equal to vibrating length of the thread, that is P lambda by 2 is equal to L, or lambda is equal to 2L upon P. Velocity of the wave in the thread is given by the formula V is equal to under root T by M, but V is equal to N lambda. Therefore, n lambda is equal to under root t by m, or n is equal to 1 upon lambda under root t by m. Hence n is given by p upon 2l under root t by m. With this formula, frequency of wave in the thread can be calculated. Frequency of the tuning fork can be calculated by holding the fork in one of the following two positions. In perpendicular position, the frequency of the fork and the frequency of the vibrations in the thread are same. So if capital N is the frequency of the fork and small n is the frequency of the waves in the thread, then n is equal to n, that is, frequency of fork is p upon 2l under root t by m. In case of parallel position, when the fork completes two vibrations, the thread completes one vibration. So the frequency of fork is double the frequency of the waves in the thread. So the formula is given as n is equal to p upon l under root t by m. In both the cases, keeping L, M and N constant, if the tension is varied as T1, T2, T3 and the corresponding number of loops P1, P2, P3 are measured, it is found that P1 square T1 is equal to P2 square T2 is equal to P3 square T3, that is, P square T is constant. Similarly, it can be proved that number of loops in perpendicular position is equal to 2 times the number of loops in the parallel position. That is, P perpendicular is equal to 2 into P parallel. Vibrations in air column. The air column enclosed in a pipe possesses a natural frequency of vibrations. When the frequency of vibrations forced into this air column becomes equal to this natural frequency, the air column starts vibrating with maximum amplitude, or resonance is achieved. The musical instruments such as flute, trumpet, shehnai, etc., which are called wind instruments, are based on this principle. The air column can be enclosed in a pipe closed at one end, now known as closed pipe, or open at both ends, now called open pipe. In both the pipes, the length of the vibrating air column can be adjusted. In case of the closed pipe, the boundary conditions are as follows. For stable stationary waves in an air column enclosed in a pipe closed at one end, there must be node at the closed end and there must be antinode at the open end. In the fundamental mode, the fundamental frequency of vibrations is given as V upon 4L, where V is the velocity of sound in air and L is the length of the vibrating column. In the second mode, the frequency is 3 times the fundamental frequency. In the third mode, it is 5 times the fundamental frequency. Hence, the second mode is called third harmonic or first overtone, and the third mode is called fifth harmonic or second overtone. 3 conclusions can be drawn from the air columns enclosed in a closed pipe. When air column in a closed pipe is resonated with a tuning fork, stationary waves are set up in the column with a node at closed end and an antinode at the open end. The vibrations in the air column contain fundamental frequencies and odd harmonics only. All even harmonics are absent. Frequency of pth overtone is given as Np is equal to 2p plus 1 into n, where n is the fundamental frequency. For open pipe, the boundary conditions are like this. For a stable stationary wave in air column enclosed in a pipe open at both the ends, there must be antinodes at the open ends and there must be node or nodes in between. These conditions can be satisfied at different lengths of air column. Accordingly, there are different modes of vibrating air column. In fundamental mode, the fundamental frequency n is given by n is equal to v upon 2L, where v is the velocity of the sound in air and L is the vibrating length. In the second mode of vibration, the frequency is 2n. Hence, it is called second harmonic or first overtone, whose frequency is twice the fundamental frequency. In the third mode, the frequency is 3 times the fundamental frequency. Hence, it is called third harmonic or second overtone. Similar conclusions can be drawn from this experiment also. When air column in an open pipe is resonated with a tuning fork, stationary waves are set up in the column with antinodes at open end and node or nodes in between. The vibrations in air column contain fundamental frequency and all the harmonics, both odd harmonics as well as even harmonics. The frequency of pth overtone is given by Np is equal to into bracket p plus 1 into n, where n is called the fundamental frequency. The principle of closed pipe having variable length is used in the resonance tube experiment to calculate the velocity of sound in air. Velocity of sound in air with the resonance tube experiment is given as V is equal to 4nL. This formula is without taking the end correction into account. If D is the diameter of the tube used, then the end correction is approximately 0.3D, and with end correction, the formula can be written as V is equal to 4n into bracket L plus 0.3D. But the better way is to eliminate the end correction. For that, first resonance is achieved and vibrating length L1 is measured. Then the tube is raised further to achieve second resonance and the corresponding length L2 is measured, and then by using the formula V is equal to 2n into bracket L2 minus L1, the velocity of sound in air can be exactly calculated.